I'm entering the gates of the ancient city of Pompeii. The city was covered by ash when the volcano exploded, erupted in 79 AD. I think it's AD or BC, I don't remember. Anyway, around the time of Christ. And it's probably the best preserved ancient Roman city in the world. Just in about a day's time, the city was covered with ash, had a population of about 20,000, and 2,000 of those people did not make it out of the city in time and were entombed in this city. This is the main street, and right there where Christina's walking over, that is a crosswalk. They had stepping stones because sometimes the streets were wet, so that you wouldn't get your feet wet, and the chariots could go right over those stepping stones because the width of the Roman chariots were standardized, and they could just go right over them. This large square is called the Forum. This was where the kind of the center of the city here, and on one side is the Basilica, and then on the end here, which we're going to right now, is the temple to Jupiter. This is the Basilica behind me here. Basilica was a term that the Romans used. This was before Christianity came to Rome. They used it for their courthouse. And so when Christianity came to Rome, they just kind of adopted the term and basically designed their church buildings, called them basilicas, and designed them like the Roman courthouses. But what you can see in this basilica is interesting. There are a lot of unfinished columns. This basilica was not finished, and the way they built these columns was actually with brick. Built them with brick, and then, as you can see, like say that column there, they then covered them with plaster, and so they kind of look like they're marble, but or that they're made out of stone, but they're actually brick covered with plaster. This is original Roman road that was laid down 2,000 years ago. That's amazing to think about. These stones are still here, the paving stones. This used to be a main thoroughfare through the town. Behind me, they have this fountain that would steam up hot water, and it would spill down onto the floor and create steam and hot water in here. Here you can actually see the grooves in the rope from the chariots. These areas right here, that's grooves from the chariot wheels going through. This may not look like a house, the roof is gone, but this house is the biggest house in Pompeii, 27,000 square feet. So this is how people lived here. I mean, the wealthy, very luxurious. You can look at the floor here. This is the floor of the guy's office. Lots of art. They even had little pools inside the house. This is the portico, and they've planted it how they kind of think maybe it was planted with the kind of plants that would have been planted there at that 2,000 years ago. opening in the ceiling that would come down to a pool right in the middle of the main area of the house. And you can see the tiled floor, pretty intricate. We're now heading into the theater. Quite a large theater here. It's fairly well intact.
It's hot here. Cool. I mean, interesting. Yeah. The walls are really cool.
Inside the ceilings, we have a very beautiful design on them. It looks like they have gold on them, but they don't. It's just really paint.
A few final thoughts on Pompeii before I leave. I think that it's pretty overwhelming to walk through the city and just see this sort of normal Roman city. Its art, its culture, the amount that they were able to accomplish as a society and as a culture is pretty staggering. And the fact that they left behind things that today are, you look at and say, wow, how amazing. I don't think our society would be able to accomplish what the Romans did 2,000 years ago. So relatively speaking, they were able to accomplish a lot, but eternally speaking, it really meant nothing. And what we see today, yeah, some pretty amazing structures, artwork and things like that. But unfortunately, there was nothing of eternal value here. And I think that it's a good reminder for us when we think about what we're building in our life. We can do some pretty impressive things, but if we're not doing it with eternal values and for God's glory, those impressive things mean very little, very little. So the lesson for me here is, what do I want people to remember when they look back on my life? That I left behind a great house, that I had a great career, that I was a great musician or a great artist. Those are good things, but ultimately I want them to remember that I loved God, that I preached the gospel, that there were some eternal values and truths in my life that hopefully radiated from all those things I did, whether it's my house, my career, or whatever it is.